Hey,
What? Yeah. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Straggy, and here in the room I have Tito with me once again. Hello, Tito.
hey, Dave, what's happening?
So, I figured what we do is we'll go back and talk about we'll talk about the first film and what our thoughts were, and then we'll delve into what chapter two is of this. And ladies and gentlemen, what we are going on and discussing is Andrew Muschietti. I think that's what his name is, right? Let's see. Yeah, Andy Muschietti. Um, his 2017 remake of Stephen King's It. So, what did you think of the first installation of Stephen King's It?
I think that clown was scarier in the first one, and the remake, right? They got a great guy to play that part. I went to the theater and saw that, and I was pretty shocked because it seemed like a real dark movie for the
Okay.
mainstream. There was a lot of dark parts in there that they touched on. It seemed like they touched on that incest with the girl and her father,
Okay.
and then they those kids, the cop's son, he went ahead and sliced the chubby kid.
Okay.
Eh, You know what I mean? It's just seemed kind of dark to me, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, I know that I myself, I ended up catching a screener for the first film. Believe it or not, I actually went on a line, or actually, I was invited by someone else to come to a screener for it, and I went and saw it, and I wasn't as impressed as you were per se. Um, I loved the characters that they built behind the children. I liked their backstories. I did like. I don't know why, but I did like, for some reason, that they intentionally um, made it seem like there was more than a fatherly daughter relationship with Beverly and her father, as you said. Um, um, so you weren't upset that they involved them a little bit more than they did in the original miniseries.
No, I kind of liked that. It seemed a lot more edgier of a film. The first film was okay. The original was just okay to me. It didn't seem like to me it was like a great movie. I know a lot of people want to remember it, but it was, back in the 80s, and a lot of kids, they grew up and they thought that was something special. But if you rewatch that film, to me it just doesn't hold the same value as I thought it did.
See, to me, on the other hand, after watching it in the theaters, I went back and rewatched the miniseries, and okay, the very beginning of this particular remake, where Georgie, okay, little Georgie, he's going down by the down following that little sailboat of his, and if you can see, the sailboat is actually being dragged. You can obviously tell it's being dragged because there are no ripples in the water. There are none whatsoever if a real boat was to actually float down the gutter. So to me, I would have wanted to see ripples. At least,
Yeah, isn't that a little bit? I don't know. I think it's a little nitpicky myself. Um, because yeah, you got to watch. I just try to get when I watch the film. I don't look for all the issues. Like maybe sometimes you got the boom speaker in the shot, right? That should never happen, but it
Okay.
happens. You know what I mean? So I don't really nitpick the films. I just go in it looking. I try to always go in with a blank mind and just trying to enjoy the film. So I like to go to the theater, and when I watch a film in the theater, I don't want to know or think about anything on the outside of the world. I just want to watch and enjoy the film.
Okay. I get that. Um, I guess me, because of my love and respect for Stephen King's writings, I guess whenever I go and watch an adaptation of his films, if something is being redone, I'm going to look at it with a critical eye. So I'm obviously going to have more of a nitpicky kind of view of it. But I figured we'd discuss the differences of this from the original. No, now, um,
Well, what did you think of the look of this clown then? Since you're more of like comparing the
as
two
far
films.
as the look of the clown, I didn't mind the look of the clown. It was definitely dark, but my problem with this clown had everything to do with uh, how annoying the voice of this particular clown was. And I'm sorry, but it was like if someone took nails and like scratched a chalkboard. To me, his voice was just, ugh. I don't know why. I don't know what was bothering me about it, but it's not that it gave me chills or anything like that. It was just grating to me, and I just couldn't look at this Pennywise even seriously enough. And then there was all kind the clown when he was supposed to be scary for me. It just came out more just they were trying to make him do fast things and instead of and I know people said something about jump scares during to me it wasn't really jump scares, it was just really shaky CGI crap.
Oh
So
yeah, see, I think to me this clown is actually more terrifying than the original. So
it did definitely have a darker feel for it. I mean, I like the fact that I mean, I in the original, did he actually carve something into the fat guy? I think he
well,
did.
that was actually the kid that did that in
Yeah.
his first remake, where it was the police officer's son, and he went ahead and carved the knife into his stomach. And then in the second part two of the new one, you'll see where that also comes into play again, with the same chubby kid that's no longer chubby anymore as a grown up.
Okay. So to me, as we're coming into this second chapter, which is also directed by Andy Muschietti. Now, Andy Muschietti actually is comes from an independent background. He directed another film that many horror film lovers like or liked, and it derived from an original short film that he did called Mama from 2008, and going. And then in 2013, he directed his first feature-length film, Mama, which kind of rose to some not critical acclaim, but a lot of people loved it. And so that was very different.
Is that the film with the little girl on the cover art with
Yeah,
the little blonde head? Okay, yeah.
yeah. So that was actually quite a jump to from that independent film status to studio director status for the director as well. So what
Yeah,
do
I
you?
like seeing that when the small guys get picked up and then they're allowed to expand with the budget myself.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when it comes down to it, an independent director knows how to really number crunch and work within a budget. So, um, seeing that to its in its effect, I was impressed with the backstory story to many of the kids in it. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but one of the kids who played in Stranger Things actually played one of the kids when they were younger. So,
You, I thought those kids really did a phenomenal job.
oh,
They really, yeah, they really did.
I think so too, and I think the reason and the fact that they were likable um, was a factor that brought them out into the light a little bit more, and I think that's why the film was a major hit. Now it's chapter two. I I saw it. I have to admit, I saw it on a really bad. Well, not really bad. It wasn't as bad as some camera downloads or whatnot. But I don't mind saying that I watch some films illegally. But I was given a copy of it per se, and I watched it. And what were your thoughts on it? What were your thoughts on this second chapter?
Well, the theater by my house, there before 6 o'clock, the movies are only $5. So I went there and watched the movie for $5. I think it was well worth it. Now, the movie is really long; it's almost 3 hours long, and when you throw the credits in before the movie, you're in the theater for 3 hours. Now, it didn't really drag to me, but you could feel that it was a long, long movie.
Okay,
I thought the cast for the adults with the kids, wow, they did a phenomenal job matching them up. I mean, they really had the look
that,
of the children because it's
that
27 years later, and they really did a phenomenal job matching them up.
that I
Um,
have to agree with.
yeah, the film they had a couple parts. They had since they went back, they showed basically one scene for each of the characters, each of the children, and kind of showing what their life was now.
Hmm.
And then so that's going to be some time in there. They had a few parts in the movie that probably didn't need to be in there, or they were a little bit longer than they were. But the movie was cool. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal or anything, but I liked it.
I liked it to a certain extent. I mean, I think that this film was a step down from their first one, or from Andy's first one, because and I'll tell you that that's and I agreed with you about the characters. I believe that they were correctly picked. Um, my biggest qualm about this whole second chapter was okay. I'm glad that they did keep to the original monster of the story instead of changing up the monster and having it be something different at the end of those deadlights. But I was, like I said, I was not impressed with the voice of this clown, and I much more liked. Maybe it's because I'm so used to Tim Curry as the clown. It was hard for me to view this actor as the clown. So when I think about it, it's like they stuck his ugly mug on a spider
Yeah,
instead
I'm
instead of having a practical effects made spider in the very end, and to me, that was not creepy to me. Um, but
See, I mean, but just his googly eyes. in the whole film. His teeth. I mean, this clown was very menacing. And to me, the comparison I could give for having an issue with the clown's voice, it seems like you're stuck on that from the first one and the second one.
I
But
am.
to me, it nowhere is like Nightmare on Elm Street, where you had Freddy Krueger's voice for all those, and then you had that remake. Just to me, because you had so many films that voice just ruined the film. Well, for it was basically one film, and now you have a new clown for one, two films here, and I didn't have an issue with that. But like Freddy's Nightmare, that remake I had an issue with, but this one, not at all.
See, and when I look back at the first one, another thing that I think that I was critical on was Pennywise's lines. Because to me, in all honesty, the only thing that I kept hearing out of this Pennywise's mouth is "We all float down here," and I'm like, is that the only line he knows? Um, isn't he supposed to have more dialogue to make it more creepy? And to me, it just kept being repetitive instead of different for each child. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what did you think when they all had to go back and find their piece of history to bring back? So in the final, in there, when they go ahead and defeat the clown, what did you think
That
about
was
some of those parts?
that was a little different because I don't think that they did that necessarily in the in the original miniseries. They did not have to find like their special piece or their special thing, or maybe they did. I'm not sure. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
it's been quite a while since I saw that one myself.
It's been a while since I've seen it myself, but from what I remember, they didn't have to go and do anything. All they had to do was just get together and fight the damn thing. Because they started remembering as soon as they got the call. Stanley went up and killed himself, just like, and that's the thing with it. Chapter 2, I felt like it was almost an exact interpretation of the miniseries because it started out with who called them all back, Mike Hamlin. And then some of them started to remember, and some of them didn't remember. So they had to go and find themselves again. So
Now, I found the scene in the Asian restaurant pretty funny. You know what I mean? I was kind of laughing out loud in the
I
theater
thought
when I was watching it.
that was kind of funny too, and I actually remember a little bit of the other one. To me, seeing the stuff with CGI instead of practical effects was a little different. So
Yeah.
so I think that when CGI works, it works to an extent. Like to me, I really didn't like the shakiness of the clown in the first one. For some reason, it just turned me off. And something about the way that they made him fill up that entire theater room in that one scene. I don't know if you remember that particular scene, or was it in the house that he actually? Yeah, I think it was in the house where he actually filled up the whole entire room.
Well, they had. I was thinking when you're talking about the shaky scene was like when they were in his Georgie and Billy's basement,
Yeah,
and he was shaking through there with the water.
yeah, that was just stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't needed. You know what I mean?
It
But
didn't have its intent, at least on me. I mean, I'm sure it impressed you, but I mean, this is interesting because we don't have to like the same things. I mean, there are things that I appreciate in the film. I mean, I think I think the camera work was pretty good.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, and well, I think that the acting by the characters was was really great, man. I really enjoyed the acting. I didn't have any issues with any of the adult actors. And once again, when they had the kids here in the second one, now you could see how they actually did age a little bit from the first one. Like the chubby kid wasn't as chubby, because
Well,
it's like a year later, and a couple of
and
the kids were a little taller. You know what I
and
mean?
yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, wasn't it the chubby kid in the first one that had the had the interest in books? Not Mike.
Yep. Yeah, he was the one at the library, and he like enjoyed New Kids on the Block. He was the new
But
kid at school.
but here we have Mike Hamlin is the librarian from the previous one who had no interest in books whatsoever. It was the chubby kid. So I kept on thinking myself, why wasn't the chubby kid the librarian and the one calling them back? You know?
Yeah, he went on to be the architecture. So,
Yeah, but
and I don't know if he was really the librarian or if he just somehow managed to live there in that library.
oh, you mean actually just live there in the apartment up above,
Yeah,
and yet he
yeah.
was doing all this research and shit.
Well, yeah, because he was the only one that never left Derry.
Well,
Everybody else left, and like, I mean, it really looked like they all had phenomenal lives. Even that the woman that was in an abusive relationship looked
yeah.
like she had a really nice house and everything, but obviously you don't want to live like that. But they really all pretty much went on to do some great things. It looked like just from the homes and stuff that they had going on. I
Well, yeah.
thought the comedian guy was pretty funny. You know what I mean?
Oh, beep beep, Richie.
Yeah, when he went ahead and got sick there when they got the call, and all the bad things started happening again when they got those phone calls from Mike.
Yep. So, what do we think about the effects in either film?
Obviously it's a lot of computer generated stuff, and some movies I think use too much. This was maybe on the borderline to me. I don't think it was too much for me the way it played out, but it was on borderline of using too much special effects for the CGI part for
Okay.
me.
To me, I think if they had not used too much shakiness in the CGI, and less on actually, to me, you have to be scary, and it didn't. It was, maybe I've been desensitized. I don't know, but I did not feel the creepiness like I felt in the first film for It Chapter 2. I felt like this was more a readaptation of the mini series because they kept following the damn mini series to
Now,
me.
now I do think part one was darker than part two, and I thought that part two was going to be much darker, but
Mhm.
it lost some of the darkness to me. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like dark one, I was kind of shocked a little bit, and then part two, they didn't push the envelope any further. They almost pulled it back a little bit. I was a little disappointed with that part. I remember walking out of the movie and I was trying to think of like what would I give it? And I was thinking probably around a B minus.
Okay.
And so it wasn't a home run for me, but I mean I like the movie, and I can tell when I'm in those films, like I could tell it was a long film, but
Mhm.
it didn't drag much. I wasn't thinking about leaving or anything like that, so I stayed and watched the whole thing.
I felt the length too while I was watching it. I mean, it wasn't exactly the best copy, but it wasn't exactly the worst. And no, I wasn't seeing it on the big screen. I have to tell you, even on a $5 day, I really don't like going to the theater as much anymore because people ruin it. But in any case, I'm glad that you went out and saw it. I'm glad that you liked it, and I'm glad that I did see it in a sense so that I could actually have some closure on what they were actually going to bring about, how they were going to tie it off and bring it all back. Now, to me, I felt like if you wanted to, you could almost put it Chapter 2 as like a standalone film and just completely forget that number one happened, because they do flashbacks with the original one.
Well, a lot of the flashbacks though that they did, they weren't in the first one. Did you pick that up?
I picked that up. Yeah. There were some flashbacks that weren't in the first one that were in this one. So I guess you could almost tie both of them together. It's just fairly loosely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they tie them together. Some of those scenes, like that clubhouse underneath. It's kind of cool thinking about if you were a kid and you actually built that clubhouse under the ground. You know,
Well,
that was pretty cool.
and oftentimes, whenever anybody thinks of like the movie It, they always think of either Stand By Me or the Goonies type of films, where you got a bunch of friends who are almost like brothers, and they love hanging out, and they have adventures together, and that's kind of what the Losers Club was all about. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it's all about: camaraderie, the sense of being able to do things together and accomplish things together, and that's what it kind of dumbs down to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it basically shows a lot of stuff. There's other people out there that are similar to you, so I don't want to really get into that, but yeah, it definitely works out where you can always find somebody that has similar interests that you can hang out with.
Most definitely. Now, are there any last words or thoughts about either the original It, or the remake of It, or It Chapter 2, that you would like the outside world to know? Um, what did you think about the music?
There was one song that I heard and I was like, it was cool, but the music didn't really stand out too much to me.
Okay.
To be honest with you, did you feel anything from the music?
I didn't really feel like the music was memorable to me in either film. It's not like, I mean, it's not like something like Suspiria, where I could remember the music for it. I mean, you do and you don't want to remember the music. I mean, if you can watch a movie and remember the music that was in it, like I can remember in another Stephen King film, The Shawshank Redemption, the two opera singers. The I can
Wow.
remember that. I can remember that, and yeah, it was beautiful, but and it was rememberable. But in here, there wasn't really something that stood out to me for that I could be like, oh, that specific symphony. I want to remember that down the road.
Yeah,
But
it's not. Yeah, I can't. It's not a soundtrack I'm gonna go out and purchase.
it's
You
not
know,
like that moment, like right after the girl runs in the new Halloween, and that music just picks up as Michael Myers is starting to run
well,
her
yeah, yeah. There was definitely there was no creepy music in it that I can recall.
down. Well, you get my drift. I mean,
Oh yeah,
there's anything that you can be like, okay, I loved that sonata in there, but
yeah. Nothing like that for me in this.
Now, was there any particular character that you liked the most out of both films?
I think the female really played the part well as the girl, and then I really just liked all of the characters. I don't. That's why I said earlier. I don't think any. I think they all did a great job. I didn't. I don't know that any of them really stood out above the rest. To me personally, I know some people might have different feelings, but the crazy guy from the loony bin that got locked up that had killed his cop father, I thought he played that part fairly well.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I just think they all did a really good job.
I think so too. I mean, I it's not that I was impressed with chapter two, and it's not that I was entirely disappointed. I was just not a fan of the clown.
And yeah,
I didn't mind its look. That wasn't my issue. It was the voice has to go with the look, and the voice just wasn't creepy. To me, it was annoying, and I
yeah,
just couldn't.
you're just not gonna be able to get past that. So
No, no, not when it. Okay, you remember Iago's voice from Aladdin?
no, I don't remember the Disney films too good.
Okay, well, Iago was actually voiced by
The average waiting time for a parent who's
he
worried
was
that their child might have autism is about a year.
sorry. He was voiced. Let's see if I can figure this out. If
I
I
am
can.
gonna go see Three from Hell on Wednesday.
Oh, you are.
Yeah. Now I gotta pay up for that. That's not a $5 movie.
Gilbert Gottfried.
Wow, I can't stand that guy.
Gilbert Gottfried. His
That
voice makes me. The voice of this new clown is just as bad as his in my mind.
Oh no, no, no. I
Yes,
remember back I
terrible.
remember back there in the late 80s, early 90s, they had USA had Up All Night, and he would be one of the people like in between like showing those low budget films on USA back then.
Oh God.
And so yeah, you probably not too familiar with that because it would come on like I don't know 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning. This stuff would be playing, and I was just like, man, I can't stand this guy. And then they had a female on there. I can't remember who she is, but she was pretty hot. I think it might even have been Elvira.
Yeah, but if you can think Gilbert Gottfried Fried on this guy's voice, that's how it feels to me.
Now,
So
without his voice, if you didn't hear the voice though, that clown, he just looked creepy though. His face.
he did look creepy, and I'll and the thing that I was trying to say about the beginning, after that sailboat part, which I suppose I can ignore after seeing that very beginning. Now, in the mini series, when Georgie goes up to the sewer and he reaches for his boat, and as the clown hands it to him, Tim Curry's mouth just comes kind of closer and closer. Now, in this particular beginning scene of it, he actually has like several sets of Leviathan teeth that just come out and chomp his arm off. And literally, the kid is just like being dragged into the sewer, and you see his arm just laying there, you know.
Yeah. Then it all washes away and you got some blood. 'Cause it was raining.
I mean, that beginning. Now, if you could put that beginning on that original miniseries, I bet you not that people would remember it to this day.
How about Georgie's brother not being how about him carrying all that weight, knowing that maybe if he was out playing with his brother when he lied to him and wasn't really sick, he claimed to be sick, but he just didn't feel like playing with him that day. All that weight on him for all those years.
And then how about the realization of how he couldn't remember Georgie? How could he forget that Georgie's death even happened?
Yeah, they didn't really bring that. They didn't so much bring that up, and I was kind of surprised they didn't talk more about Georgie.
Well,
Actually,
I know that that is the thing that kind of stayed the same. The look of Georgie, the look of Georgie has stayed the same from the miniseries to here. They almost, if you put them up next to each other, this Georgie and the previous Georgie, I bet you they wouldn't look that far apart from each other.
I guess we'll have to look at the toy figure action line.
But on that note, I figure we will end. Unless you have anything else to say about either one of those films or the miniseries, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. What kind of grade would you give the film?
It Chapter 2 or
Yeah.
all of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Well, the original miniseries I would put at an A plus. I would put Chapter 1 at maybe a C plus, and maybe Chapter 2 at a C minus. So, if I were grading it, but I'm not technically going to grade it per se because I don't really like doing that. But how would you grade all three of them?
I would be around a B on the original one.
Okay.
And I think on the first, part one of this remake, I'd probably give it like a B plus, and then I would give the part two probably like a B minus.
Okay. See, I'm fairly after I sat back and thought about Chapter 2, I kept thinking about how it went and how long it was, and it kind of felt like they were just trying to redo the miniseries on Chapter 2, and that's just my thoughts. And I know what your thoughts are, but ladies and gentlemen, I leave it up to you to decide how you felt about the film. Now, there are obviously going to be lovers of this film. There are obviously going to be haters, and there's obviously going to be people that just enjoyed the shit out of it and don't really care whether or not the old one was better or the new one. I mean, you're each and all entitled to your own opinion, and I rest my case against either one of these two films. I mean, there were things that I enjoyed about it, and there were things that I didn't. And I guess I had more negative things to say about it than my friend Tito over here. Tito, did you have any last remaining words?
No, I think we pretty much covered it pretty in depth.
Alrighty. Well, in that case, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you gain your own opinion from this particular film adaptation of the original It, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Maybe you didn't, and let us know what you think of it. Because in all actuality, you have to go into these films with an open mind, and there's going to be fandom out there. There's definitely going to be fans, but enjoy it if you want to enjoy it. So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Thanks for listening. And just stay away from it, whatever it is.